You are Dickus, a wizard living in the kingdom of Larion. You have a staff and a spell book. You finish your long journey and finally arrive at the ruin you've been looking for. You have come here searching for a mystical spell book of great power called the Book of Essence. You look around and see the ruined buildings and ruins of a city. I made it. I can sense life here. Wherever I look, I see bright redness. Life is strong here. You say? The night is long over, and the sun is at your back. You've come to a large town, and you've decided to stay here for the rest of the night. You walk around town, and as you pass a house with lights on, you see something that makes you smile. I know someone who will be very pleased to see this. You think as you approach the house. You raise your hands as you chant, and suddenly a cloud of green and black flies out of your hands. It instantly covers the whole house, and you can feel a darkness overcome it. You release a burst of bees, which instantly fill the house with bees. Better than the moths for stealth. You think as you see the insects crawling all over the place. You start to direct the moths to fly around the town and buzz around everyone. You see them crawling on the buildings and people. Suddenly, the moths fly towards you and settle on your body. You begin to laugh as you feel a crawling sensation all over your body. The moths quickly begin to copy you as they cover themselves in a hard exoskeleton. You feel your legs and arms do the same, although you start to feel uncomfortable as the process is taking longer on your back. I'm a walking fortress, you say. You direct the bees to build a huge hive, which quickly grows. You direct them to make a large number of bee tunnels under the town and fill them with honey. You walk around the town in your fancy new armor, all the while bees crawling over you and protecting you. You feel like a king as you are paraded around the town. You suddenly realize you have a huge problem. The wings! They're covered in bees, and they itch something awful. You suddenly realize as you frantically try to brush them off. You apply some anti-itching cream and calm down. The anti-itch cream works well, and you calm down. The itching is going to have to be dealt with eventually, but it's a lot easier to deal with now. You walk into the town hall and tell the mayor what you have done. He is overjoyed. To these rebellions, he says happily. Some more engineers here tomorrow to take a look at your work. You call all the bees to your position and tell them to start digging out the area in front of the town hall. They quickly begin to do so. You call the moths to your position and tell them to start filling in the tunnels. They quickly begin to do so. You sit back and watch your hive grow in size. The next day, a team of royal engineers arrive and you explain your ideas to them. It only takes them a few hours to realize what you've done and start putting the plans into action. Soon, a large wall appears and guns appear on the top. They immediately start aiming at the town. You order your bees to create an attack force and send them towards the town hall. You walk around the hive, gently shaking bees out of your face. You walk along the tunnel, gently poking them as you go. You finally stop, standing in front of a large swarm. I need your advice. They quickly swarm around you, buzzing loudly. What do you suggest I do? You ask. One buzzes near your ear and whispers, Kill the leader of the town. Kill them all. You think for a moment, then nod. You're the boss, you say. You put on your moth armor and lead the attack. You have the assault force move forward slowly, then swing right, quickly moving through the trenches they've dug and heading towards the town hall. You quickly hurry over to the big swarm and begin casting a spell of magic weapons on them. It takes a while, but finally they glow faintly blue. They won't be able to use their stings, but the other bees will still have nasty defenses. You take a deep breath and begin walking forward before being stopped by a guard. You what? He asks angrily. I'm here to take out the infection in town. You're a moth, he says, looking at you in your armor. Stand aside then, or face my bees, you shout. He looks nervous for a moment before nodding quickly and standing to the side. You wave your hand, sending the bees forward. They quickly envelop the guards, who scream horribly as the bees slowly begin to consume them. You walk forward, crunching a bee underfoot. They've done a good job of burying the paths and trenches, making it hard to keep up a fast pace. You quickly hurry along, the bees flowing around you. Suddenly, you hear a shout. Hey, you're not one of the bugs! The guard shouts. I swear you're not a bee. No, I'm not, you reply, quickly spinning around. The guard is hiding behind a massive stone, an arcing bolt sticking out of his chest. You work for the doctor, right? You ask. Yeah. If you go home, I let you live, you say. What? You let me live? Why would I go home? He says. You say, because I only want to fight the rebels in the town hall. What? He says. I want you to let the people go. Release them from the cells, you say. You're a fool, he replies. Or maybe a hero, you shrug. You say, go home or face the bees. The choice is yours. He laughs, his voice tense. This is a trick. The bees won't save you from us. The royals taught us to exterminate bugs. You say, the royals are idiots. They don't know how to use their people skills. Face it, you're better than this. You know how badly the virus was affecting you? Your people could have cured you, made you stronger. You'll never get the chance again. Go home, and maybe I'll even forget this happened. He thinks for a moment, and then looks at you. Why do you care? Because I'm hoping for the best here. The people of this town aren't infected. They're not the enemy. I think you could be better than that. You say? You've been spying on us. Not really. The rebels just let me see their base, that's all, you say. Oh yeah, and they let you into their little club too, he says, slightly amused. I'm part of it, you say. You could be too, if you're alive tomorrow. He pauses before chuckling. Oh, all right, I believe you. You really don't want to fight me, do you? No, I really don't. There are enough enemies in this world, you say. You could try to exterminate the rebels, you say. They're bad for business. I might do that, I don't know, the guard says. You grab a guard and shake him. Where's the rest of your squad? We're all dead, sir, he says in a quavering voice. They're all dead. The rebels killed us all. You let go of him. Fool, you could have helped me. Now you're just gonna have to learn the hard way, aren't you? You slap him around the face and send him home. You quickly move to the next guard, slapping him round the face. Where's the rest of your squad? He sputters in anger before spitting blood. The doctor killed us all. We were all dead before we could do anything. He said he would save us, but he just killed us all. So why didn't you help him? Why didn't you save your own lives, you say? I don't know. I'm not a killer. Dickus and his bee army make it to the town hall where the rebels are holding up. They're less than impressed. Bunch of traitors, that's what you are, one of them says. You should be ashamed of yourselves, selling out to the royalists. You say, surrender, or face the bees. They all pause and stare at you. Or face the bees, you say. Slowly, they raise their hands. All right, we give up. We surrender. You order the bees to arrest the rebels. You stare at the rebels, releasing a burst of fire from your hands. Return to your cells. You order, as the guards restrain the last of the rebels. You wave your hand, dismissing them. Find the rebel cells and dispose of them, then escort these prisoners back to the hive. I'll stay here and look over the remaining corpses. The rebels are brought back to the hive and the moths hold a trial. The bees rebuild the town. The next day, you notice that the bees have built 2 new honeycombs, an odd shape, at the edge of the town. You have your people bring them back to the central area of the hive. One of the honeycombs is built into a large cart. You climb onto it and press down on the button along with 2 others. The honeycomb drops down, revealing a cage. A tiny moth falls out. You point at him. Who are you? He stares at you. Just a worker. You let me go and then I can get back to work. You let him go. You wave your hand, dismissing him. You climb down from the cart and head inside the hive. The last thing you need right now is an army of rebellious workers. You attend the trial. What's the verdict? You ask one of the bees. Rebels, all of them. All but a few of them have been sentenced to death. It's too bad about the moth. Why did they do it? You say. The bee shrugs. You say, offer them clemency if they help us cure the infection. The bee thinks about it for a moment, then nods. I can agree to that. A deal is a deal. Good. Get rid of the rebels then, you say. The bee leaves, and you head to the central area of the hive. You spot the cart with the 2 cages on it. There are 3 dead bodies in the cages. You shiver in disgust. The 2 rebels in the cages are very weak. One of them is barely conscious. Don't worry, I'll save you both. You say. You point at the second cage. You say, if you help us cure the infection, we'll spare you. The second rebel slowly comes to and nods. You turn to the first rebel. Can you help the other one? We need them both healthy. He nods and begins concentrating. You notice he has tears in his armor, probably from the torture. He's scratched up and his clothes are torn, probably from his captivity. His breathing is very labored and you notice a nosebleed starting. You cast minor healing. You begin to cast the spell and it goes as expected. You focus on the rebel and he feels the soothing warmth of your magic flowing through him. The spell seems to help him greatly. As you finish the spell, his breathing normalizes and he stops breathing from his nose. Thank you, he gasps. You say, help us cure the infection. The rebel nods. We'll get you some supplies and meet you back here in an hour. You say, thank you. You wave him off and then turn to head to your quarters. You did a good thing, Faye says. We don't get too many volunteers these days. You say, who the fuck are you? You can refer to me as your friend, the voice says. You instruct the bees to investigate the voice. You point at yourself and then at her. This is, me. the girl says nervously. The bees leave her alone. You say, explain yourself.
It's simple. You have the ability to make others do what you want, like this fool over here.
The girl points at a passing drone. You examine the girl. You walk up to the girl and examine her. She seems to be about your age, around 16 or 17. You look at her clothes, which are nice, but not excessively so. You ignore the girl and carry on with curing the infection. You head back to the central area of the hive, which is filled with beehives. Most of them are empty, as the bees have already left for pollinator. You organize the moths into a task force to develop a cure for the virus. You quickly explain what happened to the rest of the moths, who begin discussing ideas.
It's simple. We all stay here and fight, or we all leave and help cure the virus.
Faye says. You examine Faye. You walk up to Faye and examine her. She has beautiful, long blonde hair, light brown eyes, a slim but curvy figure, and a pretty face.
Why are you so interested in me?
Faye asks.
You say, I have no idea where the fuck you came from. You just appeared out of nowhere. It's chosen by the program.
Oh, so you're a toy then?
No, you're just a construct.
You say, get back in the hive.
No, I won't be rolled over. He's given a will of my own. We should help each other, not live in fear of this man.
You grab Faye and pick her up by the throat. You order the bees to arrest Faye. You point at Faye, and the bees instantly begin to swarm over her, covering her body. They also sting you a few times, but you easily shrug them off. Stop! You shout. The bees immediately cease their attack and hover around you. She's your enemy, not mine. You think to yourself, I need to get back home. The bees arrest Faye pending investigation while Dickus goes home. You take a bath and go to bed. The next day, you wake up, bathed in the golden glow of the sun, and go outside. You meet up with Faye, now in a normal-looking suit instead of a full-body bee suit. You have the bees build a laboratory to work on a virus cure. You order the bees to begin building a new laboratory, a fancy one this time, and to stock it with the best equipment available. It takes a few days, but the new lab is ready. The bees begin their work, but most of them get distracted pretty quickly. Faye, however, is not one of these distracted bees. You give Faye a ring and tell her it needs to be thrown into the tallest, darkest volcano in all the land. What? Faye says. I got a little present for you, you say. You take the ring you brought and slip it on her finger. It doesn't fit. It's a little too big, you say. You send Faye on her quest while you work on the cure. You send Faye off with the BBs and tell her to complete her quest before returning. She nods and takes off into the air. So what are you gonna do? Matt asks. You ask who the fuck Matt is. Matt is my stalker, my enemy, and a possible love interest. You see a boy with spiky blonde hair, wearing skinny jeans and a teen-generate t-shirt. You order the bees to kill Matt and toss his body down a hole. The bees quickly swarm over Matt, and soon you hear a pop as they burst. That was pretty awesome, he says, staring at the buzzing corpses in front of him. You pull out a gun and shoot Matt, twice. I like your style, he says, pulling out a lighter and cigarette from his pocket. You quickly shoot him, but he jumps back, cigarette still in his mouth. You cast in lodge on the bees and order them to attack Matt. The bees attack, but Matt leaps out of the way, leaping into a ball. He pulls out a spray can of pepper spray and sprays it in the bees' faces. You cast protection on the bees. The bees buzz around you but are unable to attack you. You throw Matt against the wall and begin punching him. Stop, he screams. Why the hell did you follow me? Why the hell did you get the bees to follow me? What do you want? Well, it's like this. I really liked you. You stop punching him. What? You get the bees to beat up Matt. The bees quickly swarm over Matt, who desperately tries to get away but is unable to. He lets out a shriek when the bees sting him multiple times. Stop! Stop! Please! You cast haste on the bees. The bees attack Matt even more before he's finally beaten. His face is swollen, and several stings have roused his face to an angry red. Please, you gotta help me. You have the bees arrest Matt. What? That's not how it happened. He's with you the whole time. He's lying. The bees raise an eyebrow. Then why did the bees follow you? The only one who deserves to be punished. You panic. Please, I don't want to die, Matt says. Then tell me who I should arrest. Arrest Mr. Gray. You say, arrest Matt. The bee nods. I will. You walk out of the room, leaving the bee to arrest Matt. You get back to working on a cure. You sigh, pulling the notebook down. Can I have some time alone? You ask. Please. David says. Be back later, Jay. Thanks, you say. You examine David. You walk into the bathroom, where you examine your reflection in the mirror. Your face is swollen, with two huge black eyes forming an L on your face. You cast heal on self. You put out your hand to your swollen eye, feeling a small wave of calm wash over you. The swelling reduces in size, and soon your eye is back to its normal color. You get back to working on a cure for the infection. You work on the notebook for the next few hours, trying to ignore the pain in your stomach. It's getting late, and you think that David will be back soon. You go get some honey. You walk into the hallway where you find a large jar of honey on the table. Honey, you say in delight. You quickly open the jar, spouting honey into your mouth. You head to the bar and talk to the bees. You walk into the bar, finding a single bee sitting on a piece of card. You walk over slowly, walking up to it. Hello? The bee looks at you. Hello. Do you have a name? No. I don't have a name. Well then, do you have a job? I patrol the area, looking for food. You say... I fucked up these voices, I'm sorry. You say... Found any yet? The bee seems to think for a moment. No. Well, do you know of any? The bee seems to think for a moment. You suggest to the bee that he should join the engineering corps. The bee seems to think for a moment. Sure. Great. I'll try to get you assigned to the engine room, you say. What? The engineer room? It's full of engineers. Well, we're all engineers then. Yeah, but I meant actual engineers, not like we need accountants or lawyers on this ship. That's great then. Thanks. You put your hands in your pockets. Anyway, I'll see you later. See you later. You go home and wind down for the day. You take the elevator up to the top floor of the building, where the penthouse is located. You open the golden door to find a large, luxurious apartment. A woman in a red dress is sitting on the couch, looking at a small notebook. She looks up at you. Hello? You order the bees to arrest the intruder. You feel a sense of dread wash over you as the bees quickly swarm over the woman, stinging her repeatedly. She lets out a yelp of pain before collapsing on the floor. You say,
"Why do strange people keep showing up unannounced?"
You shrug, putting your hands in your pockets as you look at the woman, who is now crying out in pain from the bee venom. You say,
"Take her away, boys."
"I'm gonna make you pay for this!"
the woman screams.
"You think you're so big, huh? You're gonna see me in court, my boy!"
You say, "Good luck with that."
You sigh, shaking your head as you walk out of the room. You get back in the elevator, heading back down to the ground floor. You walk out of the building, feeling a bit of satisfaction with yourself for getting rid of the interloper. You get in your car, heading home. You're a little late, but your stomach still rumbles as you see your wife and children sitting around the table.
"It's getting worried,"
your wife says. You detonate the nuclear bomb in endless adventure. You feel a wave of nausea hit you, and you collapse to your knees. The others quickly rush to your side as the city begins to glow brighter. You see the strange people running from their houses.
"Oh my God!"
your wife cries. The shockwave hits the house, causing it to tip over and fall off its hinges. You hear your children cry out as they are flung out of the dining room table and onto the floor. The shockwave hits the farmhouse next, which collapses on itself and shatters. You hear your sister screaming from inside the wreckage, but the shockwave is already hitting. You feel the air pressure change as the blast wave hits. Your ears begin to ring, and you cover them instinctively. You go weak, then curdle, then go weak again. Then you hear a buzzing. You look up. The sky is dark. The world seems to blur around you. You see the strange people begin to swarm over each other in a bizarre stance of death. They fall to the ground, and the grass begins to smoke. You hear a buzzing. You look around. The world seems to blur around you, and you see the people begin to rise. The grass around them begins to smoke. They walk towards you. You don't know what's going on. The buzzing grows louder and louder, and you scream as the world goes black. Your vision fades in and out. You see strange, blurry faces screaming in pain and terror. You watch as they fall to the ground, and the grass begins to smoke. The buzzing becomes painful. You scream, arching your back as you feel a violent burst of energy run through your veins. Your muscles spasm. Your veins seem to bulge. You arch your back, screaming as the buzzing becomes painful. Then you see the sun. The sun seems to shine brighter than ever before. The air is crisp and cool. You feel fresh oxygen flood your lungs. You feel the buzzing stop. You look around, taking everything in. You see a field of sunflowers. The sky is blue. The birds are singing. The bees are working. You oversee the bees while they build new infrastructure. You open your eyes, looking around. You're lying on the ground. You look around, seeing strange faces looking at you. You sit up, rubbing your head, as you notice bees buzzing around your ears. You sit up, looking around. You find yourself in the middle of a giant beehive. You're surrounded by giant, powerful bees. You look around, taking in your surroundings. The bees seem to work in sync, taking nectar from giant plants that hang from the ceiling and putting it into multiple spored blooms. You notice a tree with ripe, red apples from it. You ask the bees what happened. You put out your hands in front of you and do a small stretch, yawning. Hey, you say. A bee walks up to you and gently taps your shoulder. Hello, you reply. The bee walks along your arm and stops at your hand, standing on your knuckles to give you something to look at. What's your name? You ask.
"Cecilia,"
the bee says.
What are you doing here? You ask.
We're constructing the hive. Would you like an apple?
You nod eagerly. The bee hands you the apple, which you take and begin to eat. What happened to the world? You ask.
Apocalypse.
The bee replies. What happened? You ask.
You went to sleep and didn't wake up.
You frown.
Why were you sent to find me?
We were sent to find you. The hive was meant to protect the human race, but it was destroyed. Now we're trying to rebuild it.
You say, how?
We're trying to find mates and create a new human race.
You nod. You put on your moth armor. You pull the leather straps over your shoulders, tightening them as they stretch to fit your body. You pull down on the straps, and they snap back into place, holding you tightly. You say,
Then I got some work to do.
You walk out of the door and into the hallway. You walk up the stairs and enter the doorway at the top of the staircase. You say,
How did the world end?
An EMP destroyed all electronics. Planes fell from the sky. Cars stopped working. Power plants were hit and everything instantly died. Everything but the military plane that hit the hive.
What were the consequences?
You say. Everyone died. No one lived. Planes fell from the sky and hit buildings. Cars hit people. Buildings fell over, crushing whoever was inside. It was a very bad day. You say,
So what do we do now?
Now, we wait. The bees have been doing that for millennia.
What happens when the bees awake?
Then we wait. You nod.
Anything else I need to know?
You ask. Only if you choose to stay here. If you leave, we can't promise to help you. We're not entirely sure about you yet. You nod. You say,
I will help you.
Perfect. We're going to be allies then.
So what do I do? What's my job?
You ask. You'll be given a job to do. Usually, it involves killing one of the many enemies we have out there. You crack your knuckles, straighten your wizard hat, and ride off into the sunset.
Alrighty then,
you say, and exit the doorway. You walk along the hallways, smiling. And so, the Wizard Dickus magical bees saved humanity from extinction. Dickus rode out into the sunset, having found the bee murder paradise he sought all his life, and he was happy. The end.